Now, money is often used as a term of exchange. That's what we mean in economics. Now, the Reserve Bank of India is the central bank that governs the monetary policy, and they also take care of how much should be the supply of money in the economy. The precautionary motive that's going to talk about how to keep money as a precaution, as a standby, and then do it. Good morning and welcome to the revision session in 2nd PUC Economics, Chapter 9, Money and Banking. This is a very important topic in macroeconomics, and this chapter holds a great amount of weightage. Now let's discuss the agenda for today. We are going to talk about the chapter introduction, weightage, question types, question and answers. So let's first go on to the weightage. You will see here you have a weightage starting with 1 marker of 2 marks, plus you will have two markers, that's 4 marks. So 2 plus 4, 6, 1 4 marker, so that makes it to 10, and another 6 markers. So this is about 16 marks coming into picture. So you can see that 2 plus 4, 6, and a 6 plus 4, 10 there. There again another 6 marks. So 16 marks coming out of this particular chapter. So one chapter can help you to score the entire 16 marks. So please do give some amount of time and concentration, which will help you to score better in the exams. Now moving further, we're going to talk about money, which is a very important concept. I know that all of you would have your own interpretation about money. The reason is that money is such an interesting topic to be talked about because it has its own ideology, it has its own expectation that you can expect from the crowd. Now, money is often used as a term of exchange. That's what we mean in economics. Why do we use this terminology here? Money's primary idea, the primary motive behind money is transaction purpose. Money is not something that is just meant to be stored or saved somewhere. Money is used in order for a transaction. When you buy something, when you sell something, or when you're going to exchange the currency, there's always going to be a transactional motive that's going to come inside you. So that's why we always say that money has a greater transactional value. Now, followed by that, the money also tries to make you understand the coincidence of wants. Why do I bring into this coincidence of wants? We all have unlimited wants. Our needs might be limited, but our wants are always unlimited. So we want each and every new thing every day. We want to have a better house, we want to have a better car, we want to have a better standard of living every day. But what happens here is that money needs to support that want. If you don't have money and you only have a desire to own something, that is not possible. So what does money exactly help you to do is that money helps you to understand that you will be able to get your wants satisfied. That's very important as we are talking about money. Next, there could be no exchange of commodities, and thus no role for money in the economy consisting of only one person. Normally, if you just talk about the barter system at that point of time, the value of goods was not fixed, and that was one of the reasons why money was not introduced. But today, in the modern world, in the present context, the value of each and every product is fixed. There is a market, there is a supply, there is a demand for that product. So money becomes very important for all of us to understand, to adjust and take it forward. And that's why we all say that money has got a greater transactional role altogether. Followed by the chapter summary, let me start with the exchange of commodities. We were all in the position of barter system ages before. The reason is that we did not have a proper currency, a proper exchange system. or a controller of currencies altogether. But later, what did we do is that we started bringing into picture the Reserve Bank of India, and as the history progressed in terms of economics, we also came to know that how is the value of rupee needs to be fixed, what is the value of rupee, and every single aspect of rupee started becoming an important part of our daily life. Now, the Reserve Bank of India is the central bank that governs the monetary policy, and they also take care of how much should be the supply of money in the economy. So the Reserve Bank plays a pivotal role in guiding the economy from one end to the other. And the most important part is that Reserve Bank decides in terms of how to control the inflation, how to guide the economy altogether. Money supply is governed by the Reserve Bank of India. The money supply is in turn given to the commercial banks from the Reserve Bank of India. So that is also very, very important here. Next, we also talk about the transaction motive and the speculative motive, which is very, very important. Now, let's try to understand when I'm using this word transactional motive. That means to say that this motive is primarily because we are trying to use this motive for the transactional purpose. The speculative motive is not about just gambling, but it's all about the investment perspective. So there are two things which I'm going to talk about. One is about the transaction here. The other one is about the investment perspective. So money creates two kinds of factors in the economy. The one starting from transactional, the other starting from the investment perspective. Now, let's go to the exam corner. We'll talk about what are the four difficulties of the barter system. The major four difficulties is one, lack of double coincidence, because we do not know what is the value. The lack of common measure of value. Please understand that if you do not know the value of a product today, you will not be able to measure its outcome. You will not be able to measure the actuality that's coming inside. The next one is the lack of divisibility, because you will not be able to divide into compartments. You will not be able to divide into particular systems, into particular halves, and tell exactly what is the value that is governing there. So it is very, very important that you understand the factors of this barter system. It had a lot of lacunas, followed by storing of wealth. See, for example, when you have money in the form of cash, in the form of coins, or in any other format, you will be able to store it in a bank, and that will add on to the interest in the long run. But here, the storing of goods like rice, wheat, pepper, or it might be turmeric, or it might be any other product that we are talking about, it is very difficult to store, and you do not know how much is the value of it. So what happens is that the barter system actually created a lot of complexities in terms of the economy. Now, moving further, what were the motives of demand as per J.M. Keynes? According to them, we have three motives: the transactional, the precautionary, and the speculative motive. So, three factors that we are talking about, which is very, very important today in the economy. The reason is that the transaction motive talks about the factor that it is more onto in terms of buying and giving. The precautionary motive, that's going to talk about how to keep money as a precaution, as a standby, and then do it, followed by the speculative motive, which is going to tell about how when we are going to take money from the investment perspective altogether. Followed by the four objectives of the monetary policy. The four objectives are to establish the exchange rate and stability. Next, we go into the price stability factor. Then we start understanding about controlling the business cycles here. That's in the 2-mark question that we are talking about. Followed by the providing of full employment. So just look at the monetary policy. The one is that rupee needs to have a stable value when we are trying to compare it against the dollar or against another system. The second thing is to achieve the price stability factor, which is also very, very important as we are talking about. The next is we need to control those business cycles. That is very, very important for us. And followed by providing of the full-time employment. Why? Because the monetary policy always keeps in mind that we need to achieve a full employment factor that has to be given to the people. Then only you will have a stable economy, you will be able to control it, and you will be able to take it forward. Followed by, what do you mean by an open market operation? An open market operation means to say that it's an instrument of the monetary policy which involves buying and selling of government securities in the open market. Now that's a transaction what RBI does with the commercial bank. RBI will sell it government securities to decrease the flow of credit and buy them back when the increase of credit flow as the situation warrants. So what will be an open market transaction is that now the RBI will be selling government-based securities or bonds through the commercial bank. Why? Because we have to arrest the credit flow, and whenever the credit flow has to be increased back, then automatically RBI will take a buyback situation altogether. That is what we call by an open market situation. Followed by the primary functions of money. What are the primary functions of money? It's a medium of exchange that we are talking about. It's a measure of value that we are acting upon. Yes, that's very, very important for us. The value of goods and services can be expressed in terms of money. Now, the first thing is that in the 4-mark question, this is a question where you're going to expand and write it for 12 lines, which means to say that when you just write about the functions of money, it is not enough that you have just written it in forms of lines and words altogether. What you need to do is that drive in the concept of money very, very clearly there. So what I want you is that first try to put the subheadings. Medium of exchange. What do you mean by medium of exchange? How does it work? Money plays an important role as a medium of exchange. It facilitates the exchange of goods for money. It solves the barter system factor. It's a measure of value. It acts as a common measure. Goods, the value of goods can be and services can be expressed in terms of money. All those factors have to be bought in. Why? Because then only you will be able to get full marks, point number 1. The other thing is that how does money exactly come into the economy? That has to be explained as an economics student. Followed by what are commercial banks and what are the types and the nature of commercial banks. So commercial banks primarily come under the RBI. Commercial banks are those banks which are going to give the public loans, and they are the gate point through which you will be able to access credit in the market. So for example, I want to take a home loan, or I want an educational loan, a vehicle loan. I approach the banks. The banks in turn will give me loan. So what the commercial banks tend to do is keep the flow of money in the economy. They are the people who create the credit and debit functions altogether, and the business of lending and borrowing makes the commercial bank even more interesting in the economy. So they are the people who basically deal with the money and the credit factor. Followed by the major functions that we are going to talk about. It accepts the deposits and lends the loan, which is a very, very important function as we are talking about. It deals in credit and ability to create credit. It's the power of bank that it is able to create credit in the market. So that's very, very important. It's a commercial financial institution which tries to get the profit. Very, very important again for us. It creates a demand deposit which serves as a medium of exchange. So primarily, the bank will borrow money from the people and provide interest. The borrowed money will be again rotated in the economy in the form of loans. So this is how the entire functionality works here. Followed by the 6-mark question where we're going to talk about the primary functions of commercial banks. We're talking about acceptance of deposit, saving accounts deposit. We're talking about fixed deposits, recurring deposits, providing of loans, which is becoming very, very important, the overdraft and the cash credit facility. So you can see here, it helps you to accept the deposit, saving deposits and other factors. It is also allowing you to understand about the fixed deposit factor, how much recurring deposits are we taking, what kind of loans are we providing, the overdraft facility, slowly the cash credit facility. All these things are the primary functions of the commercial banks. Now, followed by which we would go into the main and the important question, explain the functions of RBI. RBI is the apex bank of the country. That's the headline which I want you to start. It was started on 1st April 1935, and then it is supposed to be the head of all institutions. The functions of RBI is that it's a central bank. that is the money supplier of the nation. Now, what it does is traditional and primary function. It has development functions where it takes up the R&D altogether, and it does do a lot of consulting and advisory function to the government. So the first thing is printing and issuing of current notes. It's a banker to the government, act as banker's bank, which means in case if the banks do not have money, they are in trouble, they do not have anything to support back, to fall back, it's the RBI that comes into picture. So RBI is very, very important here, followed by this is how we understand and we end up in terms of understanding the entire chapter 9, money and banking. I hope and believe that all the questions that have been spoken through this particular session would be of great value and importance to you. Please do spend time and concentrate on the main points that have been discussed that will help you to score better. In the upcoming session, we will be talking about consumption and investment function, which is also an interesting topic in macroeconomics. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.